All right, sleepy Samantha. You slept in. Are you? Are
Happens when
you?
you take naps.
I know. Are you awake, buddy? We
I'm
here?
awake. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay, you got your Star Citizen cheats installed. I saw that you got back to the game, and
Uh-huh.
I'm sad to see that you came back to cheat, but I sort of get it. It's like it takes a long time to do stuff in the game, so why play the normal way when you can just hit a couple buttons and steal everybody's gear, and then you're like, check
Yeah,
out all my cool stuff.
right. Why be a normal Andy when you can be God?
Yeah, yeah. But I'm glad it's bringing more players into the game, right? It's like you could either play the normal way and take hours to get anything, or just get your instant gratification. Um, I
I'm
don't know.
assuming there's a cheating problem propping up in Star Citizen right now.
There's a cheating problem, which you know what? I'll be the silver lining here. If you got a cheating problem, that means your game's getting popular. Right?
I mean, I figured it was already pretty popular, with its crowdfunding, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So there was a free fly event, basically, is what was going on.
That's bringing a lot of new people.
Bring in a lot of new people, and I have a feeling some of the existing people were like, this might be a good opportunity to test out some of these hacks that we got going on over here. And the hacks seemed pretty potent. They were basically able to, one of the common ones that I saw where somebody could just take everything off of your person instantly, server wide, if they wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, and so some people who had been like, it sucks because some people do play Star Citizen kind of more seriously, like it's a game. And there's some mission trees right now where it's like a month of grinding to get like progression on these mission trees. And the reward is like custom armor and stuff. And
they just yoink it.
oh yeah, there's some people that were like pissed. So what's interesting though is apparently Star Citizen has been set up for easy anti-cheat, but they had it off because I think they were sort of allowing people to experiment with VR and other things, and that's at least what their excuse was that they said in one of their posts, where they're like, yeah, we want people to kind of mess around at this stage and maybe give us some ideas of what we could do, without policing the software that might be running in the background. But they turned it on, and they said they banned a whole bunch of people, and they said this today, so I have no idea if they've fixed cheating in Star Citizen or... Yeah, it's as we know, it's an ongoing war.
Yeah, it's an arms race. It'll never end, but it's good that they're trying.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those things where you're like, Star Citizen really doesn't need another problem to deal with right now.
Yeah, definitely not.
But it's been the talk of the town as of late, and of course people are upset because they're like, oh yeah, they'll jump on these issues that involve monetization within seconds, but cheating is like, they're like, whatever, but I think they responded in an all right time frame. It's just day one, they didn't really have much of a response, and people were losing their minds.
Admittedly, it's a very complicated issue that's hard to fix immediately, but yeah. I hear players' concerns on that for sure.
Yeah, I'll change my statement and say the cheating's been around for a little while, so they didn't respond in a super fast time, but it got. I thought
this was
really
like a brand
bad.
new thing. Fair enough.
No, it got much worse during the free fly event. So in that sense, they responded more timely if you look at it within that time frame. But globally, I think they might have just been waiting to see how badly people could exploit their games, and then maybe are looking into like ways to prevent it from there. But it's hard to know. Maybe it costs money, maybe it disrupts server performance by turning on easy anti-cheat, so they're just leaving it off for as long as possible. But yeah, MMO with cheats, man, that it doesn't work. At all, right? If you're playing World of Warcraft and somebody just comes in and insta kills you or steals all your stuff, you're like, well, I think I'm quitting the game now.
The funny thing is, I don't think I ever encountered a cheater in World of Warcraft. Did I ever? Except for your gold bots and stuff.
Yeah. No, I don't think I did either. And I would say the same for like EVE Online. and other MMOs that I played, like put a lot of time into. I don't think I saw any cheaters, and I think part of that is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how anti-cheat stuff works, but I think they try and put as much of that game on server side as possible where they can control it.
That's true. That's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and those games generally haven't been quite as latency impressive compared to like an FPS game where more of this stuff has to exist client side, and then clients get a little more control over it and
right.
that kind of stuff. So, yeah, hard to know, but definitely a game like Star Citizen, at least with the plan that they have for it, will not be able to exist if there's even light cheating, you know? Like you get all your gear stolen once and that's it. You're like, okay, well, that was months of my life gone to a cheat. If I don't get it back, I think I'm done, you know?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah. Well, Star Citizen news has been fun. Battlefield news has also been fun, Matt. What do you want to tell the people what's going on in the Battlefield world?
Well, to my understanding, Battlefield 6 has had some reports from, was it an interview? Because I've only seen videos of people talking about the interview. I should have gone straight to the source. But someone apparently got some information from ex-employees, current employees, saying that Battlefield 6 is behind schedule.
It was an article from Ars Technica where they interviewed multiple people without disclosing their identities.
Yeah, who they were, right.
Yeah.
So according to that, they're behind schedule. They're over budget by like a lot, like 100 million or something like that. And things are looking a little rough, and they're really grinding right now, and they're being overworked, and it's miserable. Trying to create, I think it was mainly the single player which was getting a lot of the negativity.
Yeah. And we kind of saw that coming. Last year they shut down Ridgeline Studios, which was a bummer. It's really close to like where I am. So I was like, oh, cool. A Battlefield studio, like in my neck of the woods. How exciting. Even if it is specifically for the single player for the game. They had Marcus Leto, who's well known in the Halo universe for doing a lot of their narrative work. And so, yeah, it seemed like they were really pulling out the big bucks to do this. COVID bubble popped. EA was like, whoa, we gotta pull back on the spending, guys. They shut down Ridgeline, which I believe had been operating for about 2 years, working on the single player. Rumor was that they were a little behind schedule or they weren't hitting their deadlines, which is not surprising for one, a brand new studio, and two, a studio using the Frostbite engine, which nobody knows. Nobody comes in to any company knowing how to use their proprietary software. So you have a big onboarding process, a big brand new studio learning to work together process. Like, it's not surprising that they're
apparently
behind
misery.
Yeah. So they shut that down, and from just having done the smallest amount of game development that I've done over the past 18 months, I can tell you if we had to like just hand our work off to somebody else that had never seen our work before, like they may as well just start over, which is what the other studios did basically from the report. They're like, they didn't just hand us working single player content. We more or less just had to kind of look at what they did, maybe use some of their reference stuff and just start over from the ground up.
Maybe some assets were made, but who knows?
Yeah, and even then, that's like such a small percentage of the actual work that needs to be done anyway, you know?
Right.
So it's not surprising that their single player is getting a lot of internal leaks about it being a nightmare process. Luckily, I don't care about Battlefield single player. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Yeah,
because like we're getting these reports that things are really rough. There was apparently people that have taken like, so first of all, it's a little bit of a conflicting message when I hear like they're being forced to grind and work overtime, which is probably true. But then you hear that like people are taking 8-9 months off. It's like, well, if you can take 8 to 9 months off, like that doesn't sound like you're grinding. I mean, that sounds like, maybe you had serious burnout for sure, and then you're taking a big break. But it's nice that they give you the option to do that. But that's besides the point. We've seen from leaks that the game looks pretty good. Like the game
Yeah.
looks
I think it was
like it's in a
weeks
decent
off. You
state.
said months, but I think it was
No, I someone said months off.
what?
Once again,
Eight
could
to
be the
nine
internet.
months
That's
off?
that's what the internet was saying, and
Okay.
so I didn't get it directly from the article. That's why I prefaced it because
Okay.
I didn't want to do a game of telephone here.
Sure.
So I probably, if I did that, I apologize. But that's what someone was saying was like 8 to 9 months. I was like, that sounds nuts, right? Like that doesn't. That
Yeah.
sounds like
I need to recover, buddy. I'll see you. I'm going to Hawaii for
yeah. I'll
most
I'll,
of the
I'll see you
year.
guys in a year. Like if that's true, like that sounds like they're actually treating their employees really well. If you can do stuff like that. So once again, besides the point, I am really impressed by the stuff that I've seen so far from the leaks, and
Yeah.
that looks like it's going really well. And so to hear that they're behind schedule and they're over budget and everything like that, I believe it. You know, it's possible for the single player, but it does seem like the multiplayer is, hopefully, on schedule. Especially considering we don't even know the name of the game. We
Yeah.
haven't seen any official gameplay. Like, it seems for the multiplayer they're doing all the right things.
Yeah. That seems to be the universal census is just multiplayer's looking good. Then you get reports of them being behind schedule, but it seems to be mostly weighted on the single player side of things. There was some stuff that kind of bled over into the old overall corporate culture and crunch and stuff like that. But it's hard to know, right? Some of the reports, and also, man, it's so hard to know too with some stores because, first of all, when you shut down a whole studio, everybody in that studio gets annoyed, right? They're all like,
rightfully so. They're pissed off. They just got laid off.
Yeah, they're like, we hate EA. They're the worst, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely chat with some journalists about it. So it's hard to know where the weighting of the people talking about it are. You know, are the only people willing to speak to journalists are the ones that have a chip on their shoulder about the process, you know, versus maybe a huge percentage of the team is actually loving it, right? So it's hard to know what the full picture looks like and how bad crunch actually is, but
to their credit, the crunch culture in gaming is pretty prolific, and it's well known and well documented. So like when we hear that they're crunching, I want to usually believe the people that are saying that they're crunching because it's a problem with the industry.
It is. I think I was thinking about how you solve this, and it's just a problem of extreme competition ultimately, right? Where you go, how did these guys make a game so much better than us in the same period of time or with the same budget? And then you go, okay, these guys were just like sweating their butts off at the keyboard doing like 18-hour days for months and months and months on end. And so you're like, okay, so they just literally just worked double, right? They just worked way more than us and put out a better product. And like, we can champion the product and maybe even the passion of those people who really wanted to put in the time to put out something so much better. But then it raises the bar for the whole industry. And then you get a corporate culture that's like, well, we got to compete with these guys who went crazy over there. And then it just kind of snowballs. And then you get a whole bunch of studios that are like, we should be able to hit these 3 milestones in the next 9 months. No problem. And then you're basing those milestones off of crunch culture, where you're like, yeah, we could do it if we just work 12-hour days, you know?
What I'm curious about, and this is not just Battlefield related, kind of shifting slightly, is I wonder what has happened in terms of in the game industry, which is ballooned budgets and ballooned these projects to the point where they're taking 8+ years to develop and come out. When we had, during the Xbox 360 and Xbox One days, you get like 3 Grand Theft Autos, like 3 Gears of War games, all within one generation. And now you get like one maybe big game, and then that's it for that franchise, and that's all you get, right? Like, graphical fidelity has obviously been a big step, and it takes a lot of time to develop these graphics and make sure that there's all the assets. But like, man, I don't think gaming has advanced that much in terms of what they were accomplishing back then compared to modern times to justify, going from so many titles in a couple of years to what we have today.
Well, it's interesting. You can do a lot more with a lot less now, but instead of giving you the same as before on a cheaper budget, they're trying to give you a lot more on an equal budget, So it's kind of like with the last Assassin's Creed game. Everybody just said the game was massive, right? Or they're just putting tons of stuff in there.
Right.
And it's like there's a big kind of debate over whether or not half of that was even necessary, because you're just like, it's just so much. You're just putting so much in.
For an example, Mass Effect 1 came out in 2007.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 came out in 2012.
Yeah. And then,
so there was 3 games in 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think, well, okay, so we've got a transition, right, where AAA is not as dominant anymore. Because before, back in that time period, you were not getting tons of indie. Oh, did we lose you here, Matt?
No, we're okay. We're okay.
We're okay? Okay.
Yep.
Well, so what I was saying is AAA is not as dominant as it used to be. So back then, they were we had these major publishers that sort of controlled all gaming. It was sort of like what a film studio might be, like Paramount or something. They sort of dominated and control when games came out, which games were going to be big, and even coordinate with other studios to make sure they didn't run over each other. And now we've got this kind of Wild West where the indie devs have risen with a huge amount of power and have made the market more competitive, more difficult. And I think AAA is trying to get by with less bigger titles. They're betting on bigger titles and less on medium, average size titles with longer production timelines. Because it's like, yeah, you're saying 3 games in 5 years. That is really fast for them. And we're still getting Call of Duty games at a breakneck pace. But I also think part of that was because
they didn't 3 studios working on it now.
Yeah, but they didn't need to be as innovative back then also, I don't think. Because when you kind of dominate a market to an extent, people are just like, the next game, I will buy it. And now I think the market requires maybe some more innovation as well. Think about how many shooters and games have come out this last year where you're just you see it and you're like, meh. And it's not that it's not an impressive game. It's just that
it is a lot more saturated. You're right.
Yeah. Market's saturated. To stand out, you got to do some crazy stuff. It's like GTA 6. We're all really excited for it because they're just pushing the envelope so much further, right? If it looked like GTA 5, we'd be like, or just a small step up from GTA 5, we'd be like, that's cool. I'll probably check it out.
So you think if Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 came out recently, that it would not have been as nearly as successful or as big of a hit because it would not have been as impressive?
Well, I'd be curious to know what the returns were sequentially on each of those games, if they were going down or increasing from title, because studios will generally fluctuate with the profit, right? They'll be like, oh, well, we're making more and more, so keep making more and more of this game. And they might have just saturated their market with titles that were less good, not as innovative. Again, just that big shift from big AAA studios towards all these other markets.
You see what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. I don't know why dev time takes so long. It certainly scales with the complexity of a project, without question. That's the main scaler. If you're just saying, hey, let's make an FPS with nothing innovative in it, you can be up and running. You can make a game in a year and a half or something, not too crazy. It's just the scale of the complexity. How many levels, how many features that nobody's tried before, how crazy is your multiplayer going to get? If it hasn't been done before, you're tacking on a huge, big, unknown amount of dev time to things. And I think a lot of titles are trying to do that, or they're trying to do what's been done before, but just give you such a dense package of that with the Assassin's Creed game, where you're just there's just so much in it. There's so many places to go that they're stacking on that extra dev time. But yeah, I don't truly know. It's that's kind of a good segue actually into another topic that I wanted to chat about. This is sort of related to Microsoft.
Well, let me get your opinion real fast. Are you worried about Battlefield 6, or is this big concern to you?
I think I have the same level of worry about Battlefield 6 as I always have, which is
I think that's fair. Yeah. Cautious, cautious optimism. Yeah.
Exactly. I felt these, like, without the single player story breaking, I would have felt the exact same way because of the news of them shutting down Ridgeline. I knew as soon as they
Yeah.
did that the single player was in trouble, and I also just didn't really care because half of the Battlefield games that I've played, I didn't complete the single players on. I just wasn't. I don't play the games for that, and I didn't find them particularly amazing overall. They're very hit or miss. So it didn't really change my opinion of it. And I think they're just trying to do everything, like Call of Duty does everything. And Battlefield doesn't need to do everything. And I think they keep getting slapped for trying to do everything and not learning their lesson. So maybe it doesn't really matter. They've spent a bunch of money on single player. It's not going to be a main driving force for the game. Everybody's waiting for multiplayer.
Oh, what did you think of the 100 million player count? Forgot about that. So their goal apparently is
yeah,
EA wants to get 100 million
that's
players throughout its
absurd.
life cycle.
Yeah.
It is absurd. I don't think they've even hit 100 million players throughout their entire series total, combining all of them.
There is a little bit of, here's how I feel about that, because I think the article tried to interpret the info correctly, and everybody who then telephoned that info sort of exacerbated the headline a bit. So
of course,
the 100 million figure was there because there's going to be a major free-to-play component of Battlefield, and Battlefield has
that's what I was going to say. It has to be free to play for their battle royale mode.
I believe the article mentioned that was part of the statistic, the calculation. Yeah. So they haven't done a free-to-play Battlefield before. So if BF1 did 30 million copies plus whatever they sold with it as a paid game, what could that have done if it was a free game? They might have hit 100 million, players. So I think they're trying to factor in that they're going to have a free Royale component or whatever it is to the game, and they think they can hit 100 mil, which seems insane to say if you were not doing a free-to-play component, because you're like, wait a minute, your most successful game ever only did 30 million copies. Why are you thinking you're going to hit 100 million copies? So I think the figure is a good goal to shoot for them. It should never be something that we're analyzing as consumers and be like, 100 million, you guys are crazy. It's like, no, that might be realistic within a free-to-play title of their stature, but I also don't have any of their data. So maybe it's a great prediction. For all we know.
Right. But so you think do you think the entire game is going to be free? Because I'm thinking multiplayer and single player will be a paid product, and then the battle royale will be just like Call of Duty.
I think just the Royale is going to be the free.
Okay, that's what I thought too.
Component, and that one will probably be highly microtransaction driven and whatever, Yeah. Or just a vehicle to get you to buy the main game and get all the bonus content, or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah. Okay. I was trying to segue into the Microsoft thing, which
I derailed you. I apologize.
No, it's all good. That was a good part of that story to cover, because I feel like I've chatted about it and then I forget that I've chatted about the most important part of it before. But anyway, the Microsoft thing. So Microsoft laid off 9,000 employees, and a huge percentage of them were from Xbox. Closing down like massive game projects. Like, this is on the scope of what Sony did a few years back, where they were just axing game, not even a few, probably last year or like whatever. Post COVID, just shutting down studios left and right. Speaking of long developments, Everwild, which I thought was a really interesting project concept. If you haven't heard about it, it's like an open world adventure game, multiplayer adventure game, but without combat as like a major focus. And so it's like sort of this weird exploration, meeting creatures, maybe training stuff. But I think they had been in development since 2014.
It's been, I heard 9 years.
Yeah, maybe it was concepted in 2014 and then production started in a little later or something. But that's a huge development cycle to just shut down. And I get sometimes things go off the rails and things aren't going well. And from what I read on it, that they had to kind of restart a few times or whatever.
Yeah.
Which seems insane to me for any experienced dev studio or game developers to like get yourself so far up a creek where you're just like, oh man, the only way
You've
forward
got
is
to
to
start
start
over.
over. You're like, well,
Yeah.
how badly did you guys screw up with the concepting phase? And I'm not going to
Yeah.
say it's not hard to predict what your game's going to need tech wise, but if you got experienced people in charge of a project, like anticipate that shit, man. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
don't throw away 3 years of development. So they canceled this massive project, which was one of them. The other one that I'm really bummed to hear about was John Romero's studio, the one of the co-creators of Doom. You know, like grandfather of the FPS.
Yep.
He was coming back into the scene. He had more or less been kind of semi-retired from game development for a while. He had his own studio going with 100-ish employees, and they were making a new FPS game, which, you know, for me, nostalgia, all that stuff, it's like, yes, I will buy that game. Like, what, I don't care what the reviews are going to say. I'm going to play John Romero's next game no matter what.
Yeah.
They cut funding to that, which seems insane. That seems like a sure thing almost. And apparently his story too was like, one, so he has publishers that are working within the Microsoft group that didn't know they were going to get shut down. And he literally had a publisher meeting like a day before that where they're like, we're hitting every single one of our goals. The publishers think what we're working on looks fantastic. We're getting nothing but thumbs up and great feedback. And then like a day later, they're like, by the way, all your funding's cut and you're shut down. You're like, how much does that suck?
So they are shut down.
Yeah. So, well,
Good
I did hear that they might be able to get investment from somewhere else and maybe continue it going. But they also laid off like 100 employees, or they had to fire all their employees because they didn't have any money. So a lot of those people are going to go to different studios. So whatever happens,
as they should, because they're not going to wait around.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No fault on them. But if they do get the funding back, they're like, cool. So now we have to spend months onboarding people, new people, and showing them how to work with whatever was created before them. So, it sucks basically.
Yeah, that's.
And seems like it's the opposite.
Messages. Like if the game is looking fantastic, they're hitting all their deadlines, then like is Microsoft just that incompetent? Are they, you know, they're just like, well, we got to cut something, you know, and we just think this project isn't going to sell as well. Maybe I don't know.
Well, there was an article about Microsoft killing game studios, and I don't know if it's like a Microsoft centric thing, where it's just a big corporate thing where they just kill off studios. EA's killed so many game studios. Like the list is insane, truly insane, where they're just like killing off these iconic brands and studios that made some of our favorite games. Microsoft is very guilty of the same thing. I don't know if it's just like big management where they go, we got to make sweeping cuts. And then when you make sweeping cuts, the cuts are political. Internal politics, right? Where you go, Matt's not going to cut his team, even though his team missed all their deadlines. He wants his team. He likes his team. He likes his game. So he's going to cut Level Cap's team because even though they've hit all their goals, Matt's the guy who gets to decide, right? So it's like one of those things where I think it's just political ultimately inside where they delegate it and they're not doing what's best for the company. They're doing what's best for their branch of the company, you know, and that's super common. And I've heard from people who work at Microsoft that the corporation feels very segmented where you're like, oh, Team Xbox doesn't talk to like Team whatever, you know, whatever. Excel. Not that I think they would chat with each other. Like, get those Excel guys on the line.
Hey, I got Excel gamers.
Yeah, I was trying to think of another Microsoft product. Excel.
You could probably just throw anything in the, you know, and you'd probably hit a Microsoft product at this point. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Don't they have like a WhatsApp or something? I think they own that.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Bigger companies becoming bigger and bigger every single year.
I know. You're like, they're failing on a lot of their stuff. It's like, oh, well, doesn't matter if you buy the competition, dude.
Yep.
Man. I would lump Autodesk in as this is my nerdy 3D guy rant, but man.
Okay.
Autodesk used to be a company that I respected back in the days of like 3D Studio Max and all that stuff. They made really good they had, I should say, some really good innovative 3D software. They had the best CAD software. They had the best 3D software for a little while. Their competition started to get good. You know what they did, Matt? They bought it. They just bought all their competition, and now they're one of these just conglomerates that owns like 90% of anything you would need to build something in 3D, you know, whether it's engineering or animation or whatnot. They just bought all that stuff and stopped innovating, charge you a premium for something that you can kind of get for free now with competing softwares. And they've just turned into like, it's the software as a service model, which is taking over. Adobe's fully on board with the software as a service. They don't even want you to install the programs on your computer now. They just want you to use their web clients for stuff.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, super gross. I hate it all. These companies should get absolutely like anti-competitive lawsuits against them because they just buy their competition. As soon as there's a good product that's like offering something that they don't have and is gaining market share, they're like, we have billions upon billions.
It's ours now.
Yeah. They just make them an offer they can't refuse, you know. They're just like, yeah. And then
how would you you'd be stupid to refuse it.
Exactly. So it sucks. Anyway, that's my nerdy production software rant over. But same goes for game stuff though, right? You can buy your competition. Microsoft has been on a buying spree. I mean, they own they Activision Blizzard now, you know, like some of the biggest games ever.
And then they shut down, God, what was that? Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Like they showed it off like a year ago and they're like, yeah, it's dead. It's like, what do you mean it's dead?
Yeah. I saw the article did a little bit of, they gave Microsoft a little bit of credit on some of the things that were shut down. Not giving them credit, but more or less kind of devil's advocate.
Justifying why they did it.
Yeah, they said the Perfect Dark thing was like what was shown was certainly not like what was ready to play, like the tech.
Right. Yeah.
The preview was.
Slice
I don't even think it was that. I think it was mostly fake. It was mostly a fake. Here's what a Perfect Dark game might look like. So I don't know how far they were into that. And based on the article, they said they were a bunch of those games that had big kind of high profile names were like barely started, or like the trailers that hyped people up were like, you know, they were mostly just animations versus an actual game engine running a simulation.
That's fair.
Yeah. So it did defend some of that. It just sucks that so many things are getting shut down, especially when it's something that you're looking forward to. And especially when it seems unjust, where you go, okay, Everwild, huge development timeline, kept pushing back their timeline, costing lots of money, failing, making problems along the way. I'm not saying those developers deserve to get fired, but there was problems in the production, so you could at least understand why they might cancel it. But then you have Romero Studio, where it's like they're getting thumbs up all across the boards and they're like canceled. And it's the exact same thing I heard from like a bunch of Sony studios too. I know some people that worked at Sony studios that were like hitting all of their goals and benchmarks, and like everybody was like really excited about the games, and then they just shut it down. They're like, okay, so if you're telling me that you're just shutting it down when things are looking great, like what do we even take away from that experience? You know, doing our best work, putting our best feet forward, dedicating ourselves to this project, and shut down. It really, it's a bummer.
Yep. And sometimes it's the way it is.
Yeah. All right, Matt, tell me about the booby mecha game that you've been playing.
Oh, Death Stranding? Just kidding. That's more feet.
Is there a big feet thing? Well, it's hands too, right? Yeah.
Well, the feet thing is just because like there's characters that just take their shoes off and they have their toes out, and Kojima's known for like scanning actors' feet in his games, and it's just a running gag that Kojima has a thing for feet.
He made himself a constellation in that game. Did you see that?
I did, yeah. I didn't see it while I was playing, but I did see the video of it online. Yeah. Where you look up and you can see just an image of him in the constellations.
Yeah, it's a photo of his face in the constellations.
In the game. Yeah. like
There's
he's
some
some sort of
ego
like
that I aspire to,
yeah
dude. I'm
yeah.
like, could I put my face in my game, man? Oh man, I gotta get the Kojima ego going.
But Mecha Break has been fun. It's a lot of the same. Like if you played the demo or the beta,
Mm-hmm.
there's 12 free mechs that you can use. There's three that are behind a paywall, or you can grind it out, which can take about 6-8 hours if you're doing challenges and stuff like that. So it's not too bad of a grind, and I
Yeah.
think those challenges reset, so it's doable. And yeah, it's a free to play game, so it does have like there's a $50 microtransaction day one, which is pretty ridiculous, which is causing some people to be
Wait,
upset
what's a
because
$50 microtransaction day one? What does that mean?
so the game came out
Yeah.
and day one they had a $50 skin.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
$50. I mean, technically you get a couple of skins with it, but it's $50.
as long as it's a skin, I don't really give a crap what people charge for something because then I'm like, just don't buy it. Like,
Right.
it seems
Right.
insane.
And that's kind of where I'm at too. But also if skins didn't matter, then the industry wouldn't be as big as it is right now with
It's true.
microtransactions, right? We wouldn't have all these free games
Are they
and all
letting
these
you trade
mega
skins
successes.
like Counter-Strike
You
skins?
can trade stuff. Yeah. So there's like an in-game market too, which I'm not
Interesting.
entirely sure how that works. Yeah.
See, now, if I were an evil developer like that, I would just
Mm.
do, quantity limited skins, right?
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you
Yeah.
go. Well, it's a $50 skin, but there's only 1,000 of them, dude. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want to miss out. Do you? $50 now, it's going to be $10,000
It's gonna be
in
so much later on when you can never buy this ever again,
a
and you have to
week.
get
You
it from,
better buy it.
from this other guy. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Oh, you could just print money. Just print that money. I wish I was an evil developer. I can't. I've got a conscience, I
Have morals.
feel bad about it, but it seems so easy when you can just be evil. It's like the dark side. You're like, they get all the cool powers. They get to shoot
Yeah.
lightning and stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're just dark, it's easier.
So it's basically a hero shooter, but with mechs, and like the actual base mechanics are really fun. It's really fun when you're playing as a melee mech, and it works too, where you're
Yeah.
just zipping around, dashing back and forth, and then just slamming your giant energy sword into someone's hull and stunning them, and then just like the whole of the ship, not the whole of yeah. You're no, I, that was that. Yeah, that was fair.
You didn't say
That's fair.
hole. You said hole. There's
Like
a little
hole, like a hole.
Just slam
How
the
do you
energy.
pronounce the whole of a ship?
You said it sounds like you're saying whole as in like the whole planet, but yeah, I don't know. It just slam that energy sword into someone's hull. It just took me out.
No,
Took me by
that's completely
surprise.
fair. That's completely fair. The,
Yeah.
the chassis would that be
Yeah,
better
yeah,
for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the chassis
Well,
of the ship. No, I that I think it's
it is a
hilarious.
game that is a little bit guilty of going anime booby girl to like sort of get you in there, get you in the front
Yep.
door,
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I mean, it's silly that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the characters kind of have they don't really show up in the gameplay. They're in the robots, right?
You see the robots every time your character gets taken out. They have like an animation where their character goes up and down, and of course that causes you boob physics. And
Nice.
yeah,
Nice,
so
nice, nice.
they're there. They're there.
Okay.
Yeah, you see them regularly.
Getting some ideas here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
wondering if I could work that into, I'm like, yeah.
You probably could.
I think every game ultimately could kind of have anime booby stuff in it, right? Because as long as you can put the character inside of whatever robot or car or something, they're just like, constantly getting jostled around and stuff. Like, yeah, it's smart. It's smart. These evil devs, Matt, I'm telling you, it's easy once you're evil. You're just like, and then we'll do this.
I don't think having hot people in your game makes you evil. I just think it makes you, not desperate, but
You're going for an easy win, kind of.
Yeah, an easy
win.
win. Yeah,
It's a little cheesy tactic. Yeah.
But I think the game is it's fun. I think it's a solidly made game.
Mhm.
I've enjoyed my time with it. Yeah, it's been enjoyable. Oh, full disclosure, I did do a sponsored stream though, so I could be swayed by the sponsorship. So full disclosure out there, I did do a little sponsored stream.
Yeah, fair enough. That's cool. What else you been playing?
A lot of Death Stranding.
Yeah.
I've really been enjoying it.
I saw I saw a clip of you falling off of a cliff, which was entertaining.
That was the very beginning of the game.
Yeah.
That was literally the first when I finally got control of my character. The first like 5 seconds, I like
that is
fell.
hilarious. You're like, look at this beautiful right off a cliff.
Yeah, fell hard too. It was good.
Yeah, it was amazing. Very funny. You're like, this is gonna be a good stream tonight, people. Let's go. Oh, okay. Gotta figure out how to walk first.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people fell
Stranding,
off of that same cliff.
Probably a lot. Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
It's still I think I have about 3 hours left according to my chat, so I'll probably finish it up in the coming days. But
is that annoying to have your stream chat being like, "Oh, you're almost at the end, bro.
It's pretty obvious that you're almost at the end for most games, but yes. And that's actually in some ways I like to know when the game is going to end because then I can kind of time my streams around it.
Fair enough.
Because like if I'm 6 hours in, they're like, okay, you're almost done. I'm like, okay, how almost am I? Because I've had situations where they're like, you're almost done. And I keep going, and they're like 4 hours go by, and it's been a 10-hour stream. Yeah. I'm like, guys, I need to sleep. So yeah, it is nice to know a little bit. But yeah, I'm nearing the end. Big revelations have occurred, and it's just it's fun to play a game where you've got a very unique, creative visionary who wants to make something very different, and that's what they've done. Yeah, so I've liked it a lot. Cool. Lot of new ways of playing though, like tons of new weapons and gadgets and modes of transportation and upgrades compared to the first game. So you can really tailor it to your preference, which I've really appreciated.
What are your thoughts on the visuals? Some people are saying it's like the best looking game they've ever seen.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
It looks great. I don't think it's the best looking game I've ever played. There are moments when you're like, God damn, I cannot believe it looks this stunning. Like that beginning scene when you're like walking out onto the rocks, like it's just rocks, so it doesn't have to render anything else.
Yeah.
Right. But God damn, do they render those rocks very realistically?
Yeah. Yeah. We were chatting about this maybe last time a little bit, where it's like, if you create a simplistic environment, then you can really just sink all your time into making those simple things look incredibly real. Where if they
do.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you're trying to do like an entire city, you're like, okay, well now we got to deal with cars, concrete, skyscrapers, everything that occurs in a city. Like something's going to not look as good. Like it's just going to take you out of it.
So there are definitely moments where you will be like, this is one of the most realistic looking environments I've ever seen. But that scene is a rock, right? It's just rocks.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, look at the surface of this completely still water. It's so real. Like the reflections.
So real.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I'd say it's like one of the few actual PlayStation 5 games that we've gotten that feels like a game that was, designed for a PlayStation 5, which is nice.
I like that this time around, because the first time Death Stranding came out, everybody was like, I don't know what to think about this game. This isn't a game that's like anything else. And I hate it or I love it. Or there are people come out with reviews saying it's the worst game ever. And then like a month later being like, okay, I can't stop playing Death Stranding. People really warmed up to it. Yeah. And I like this time around, we're not getting that as much. They're going, all right, guys, we kind of know what the deal is. So either you like the Stranding type game or you don't. And if you do, it's great. So it's nice.
This time around, it's also a lot less confusing too, because it's still confusing. Like, don't get me wrong, but because you're already introduced into the world, into the characters, and into the kind of the way that the system works, this is more of a traditional story. It's still Kojima, so it's got weird things happening, and they kind of throw it piecemeal at you. Where it's like, oh, what does this mean? And it's like you have no idea because like you don't have all the puzzle pieces, right? And only by the end do you kind of understand. But the story so far has been
kind of understand.
Understand.
It's still one of those games where they just have all these weird, quirky things that are just not explained, right?
And most stuff I think is explained.
Okay.
Like there's like a huge catalog of information you can go to like reference.
Last time I asked you what the gloves were about. Do you know what the gloves are about now?
The gloves?
The like
What do you mean the
hands on the
gloves?
chick's
Oh no, I
shoulder.
still have no idea what those are for. Yeah.
Okay, so unexplained. Got it.
Okay. Yeah, you got me. I guess they're just unexplained. Yeah.
I mean, how many games can just put hands
It's
that?
true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
no. You're right. You're right. There are things that are just the rule of cool. I think is very
yeah,
prevalent in that studio where they're just like, yeah, she's got little hands on her outfit,
yeah.
and we why would we explain it? Like it's just that's just part of the world, right?
Here's the thing. I like it, but I also don't like it. I like it in the sense that I'm like, what the heck is that? It's so weird and bizarre, and I want to know more.
Right.
And then when they don't explain it, I go, okay, so you guys are basically using this as a cheap trick at this point to make something
Yeah, but I think that
weird.
also adds to the the magic of it, right? The magic of the
Yeah.
world too.
Yep. Like I said, I love it and I hate it at the same time where I'm like, oh, you didn't have to explain it, but maybe that's cool in its own right. Dang it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is I recently finished off Wind and Truth, which I really liked, but I thought it was
Yeah.
one of Brandon Sanderson's weaker novels.
Oh no,
And
really?
yeah, I do feel like it was one of his weaker ones, and still loved it, still enjoyed it, but a lot of it is explaining all of the mystery stuff that he's been like,
Mm-hmm.
breadcrumbs along the way. He explains all of it. And so
Yeah.
that was like, there's no mystery anymore. I'm like, well, now the magic's gone,
Yeah.
right?
Do
Like
you
it's nowhere
think
near as cool.
Yeah, do you think you didn't like it as much because he did wrap up kind of the universe that he had been building?
No, I think that might be part of it. A lot of the early books are about. I mean, we're transitioning here. A lot of the early books. This is not really spoilers. Spoilers. Kind of, sort of, not really though. So don't worry. The early books, the undertone is about being a better person and becoming a better person. With yourself, and mental health is a big theme. But it's been kind of the undercurrent while all these other awesome things are happening, right?
Yeah.
Kaladin's doing all these really cool things and going on. I wouldn't say adventures, but you get the gist, right?
Sure.
The final book is in your face. It slaps you over and over about them becoming better people and what it takes to improve your mental health. So mental health is like on the forefront, and he slaps you around with it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become. It's not the background of them improving. It is in the forefront, 24/7.
Yeah.
And I felt like he pushed that a little bit too far, for my taste.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to lead a narrative with a fantasy narrative, I should say, with that as the main thing in the foreground, as opposed to, a conflict between nations.
And there is still
or
a conflict. There's still conflict. There's still really cool things that happen. Awesome moments occur, but like a majority of it is people dealing with their issues and their mental health problems.
Has any of Sanderson's stuff been turned into shows or movies or anything?
Not yet. No.
It seems, is he not like open to that or something, or is he just?
He is, but he's waiting because I think he wants he knows that what he has is like really good.
Yeah.
And he wants a lasting legacy and not just, he doesn't need money. He's he is like one of the richest authors ever. So he does not need or want anything.
That's
so he
fair.
wants probably a legacy.
Yeah. You'd want to protect your IP. You don't want to just be like, all right, HBO.
Yep.
Do the Game of Thrones treatment. And you're like, yeah, Game of Thrones was amazing right up until it wasn't. Which is like, it's interesting. I wonder how George R.R. Martin feels about I know he's talked about it a bit actually, and you're just like, they just like the showrunners just wanted to like leave, so they just like wrapped it all up, and we're just like, it's over, and didn't give it the due diligence. So that could totally happen to a Sanderson thing, and then he'd be like, well, crap, we didn't need to make that show, and then we did, and now it's kind of ruined what it is. But it would almost certainly get more people into reading his books, though, who hadn't read it before.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like I read the Expanse books after I watched the show. So there's that. Yeah, I watched a couple of movies. Did you recommend Sinners to me, or did somebody else recommend it?
Probably not me, no, because I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Somebody recommended it to me. So I saw Friendship, which was what I was most excited to see, which is it's like a Paul Rudd. It's sort of like You know, like I Love You Man. Do you remember that comedy?
Yep.
Um, so as with Paul Rudd and Jason Segel. This is Paul Rudd, and it sort of starts off in a similar premise. I forget the other guy's name. He's kind of a newer actor, but similar premise of like suburban dads kind of becoming friends, but it very much goes off the rails. And it's a dark comedy, but I found it very funny. I thought it was great. It was just I don't know what it is. It's sort of like a metaphor for like adult friendship in a way, but
Okay.
taking what maybe would be normal adult feelings about like trying to still be cool as an adult and make friends and hang out with the cool people and stuff like that, and just like exaggerating that internal state, that mental state to the extreme, and just giving you a character that is just like wants that adult friendship so bad but doesn't know how to be cool in the right situations, and of course blows everything up because he's just like, yeah, I'm one of you guys, you know, and you're just watching it like sort of it's so absurd that I didn't feel that like sense of dread and awkwardness throughout the film. You know, you're just like,
Okay.
oh God, what's he gonna do
Yeah,
this
because
time?
that's one thing I hate is when they make it just really uncomfortable. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I don't want just to watch something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. This went beyond believability to the point where it wasn't that for me. But it definitely does have some uncomfortable moments when you're sort of building up into the like absurdity of the film. So I liked it a lot. I thought it was solid. I hope they make more movies like Friendship. I also saw Sinners, which I can't remember. Somebody recommended, and it had like insane Rotten Tomato reviews. I swear
Doing very well.
yeah, I'm gonna delete Rotten Tomatoes, dude. I've stopped agreeing with like so many of the Rotten Tomato
Oh, did you not
scores.
like it?
Um, I like the first 2/3 a lot,
Okay.
and it sort of felt like, and I won't give away any spoilers here. I'll just say that um, it had great writing, really good acting, characters that I was super interested in, and a story and time period. I would rather say a time period and a genre. It's kind of about, it mixes in blues music to the post-slavery area of America, and it's really interesting. And I feel like they needed a big budget to make the movie because they had a pretty big cast and a lot of good writing and stuff. And they
Uh-huh.
threw in some stuff that I felt was like the sales pitch to the big studio to get it made, because they're like, we're not going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on like a movie about blues, like post slavery or something like that. That's not a big budget film. That's like a weird indie film.
Mm-hmm.
So they threw in some elements that I'm like, this feels almost like what they needed to do to pitch it to like a big studio to get it made or something. I don't know. I could be wrong. I didn't actually research it, but it kind of ruined the movie to me, to be honest. I was really enjoying it right up until a certain point, and I was like, okay, just feels like it went for like some sort of,
Different direction you weren't expecting, or just didn't want.
it felt like they went for mass appeal, kind of.
Okay.
And I think the best part of the movie was more of the indie side of it, which
Gotcha.
doesn't have mass appeal, right? It's more
Gotcha.
character driven and dialogue driven. And they're like, yeah, but that's not going to put butts in seats, you know? We got to put butts in seats. So let's do this thing. And this
Fair.
thing was what threw me off a bit. But I think it was interesting. I think it was interesting. And I forget the director's name, but he did a few other stuff that I was also interesting. So, you know,
Okay.
It's Michael B. Jordan. He can carry a movie for sure, and he did a lot of
Definitely, yeah.
carrying in this. So, yeah,
Twice the carrying, if you think about it.
yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
you know, if you want to get a big A-list celebrity in your movie, just tell them that they can play multiple copies of
Yeah.
themselves.
They can play a clone of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be your own twin brother, which means you get double the screen time. And it's just, yeah, it's the ultimate ego trip.
Yeah.
And that's how you get a big actor in your movie. Like,
Yep.
man, I wish we had another actor as good as Michael B. Jordan. What if we just had him play himself? It's fantastic.
Yep.
Anyway, it gets a something
Gets
for
a
me.
meh out of 10. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hot take compared to considering those Rotten Tomato scores. It had like
I
a
know.
96 and a 97.
I was
So
kind of surprised but you know what? Then again, I don't know. I'm getting an idea of what the Rotten Tomatoes audience likes because I think it's sort of a culture, right? It's like review culture and it
hmm
exists in a certain place and it likes certain types of things and you go, "Okay, so might not quite always agree with my take on stuff, but
that's fair.
yeah. The speaking of gaming related show stuff, Edge Runners got renewed for a new
Yeah, I
season.
heard about that. Yeah, apparently it's going to be a new cast of characters, but that's all I know because I didn't watch anything because I'm like, well, I don't want to get spoiled because I know I'm going to watch it regardless.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you didn't watch the first season? Or
I didn't watch the trailer.
okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really want them to continue with the
I don't
first
think there
season's
would have been
characters.
a way to continue,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. Everything was kind of blown up and they're all sort of
Well, let's not jump to spoilers, but it wraps up
yeah.
the arc of those characters. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I love that they're continuing with it. I've heard that a lot of these, especially when we got the news that um, that, what was the League of Legends show called again?
Arcane?
Arcane. Yeah. Like apparently, I think financially, like they had a hard time making that work. And like, um, it was such a good show, and they wrapped it
Yeah.
up and you're like, oh man, I hope we can get more kind of video game adjacent shows that can really be allowed to explore stuff. And um,
hmm
I think Edge Runners has that potential. I thought the first season was decent. It was a little anime tropey, but I did enjoy it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say heavy anime tropey. It was sort
Yeah.
of like Berserk meets like cyberpunk in a way. You know what I mean?
I haven't really read Berserk, so I couldn't say, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. It's just like a dude getting like obscenely buff, like buffer and just
Yes. Yeah.
going down the path of buff violence,
Nothing wrong with some buff violence.
Nothing wrong with buff violence. I've just seen it in animes quite a it's an anime trope is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Great show.
I'm excited for them to maybe change it up the next season. Give me a different anime trope.
Give me some other tropes, right?
Yeah.
Like a
Um,
cyberpunk character who dies, but then gets transported to a mythical, magical RPG world.
what are you making reference to? Like any of the
So it's just a new genre. Well, it's not a new genre anymore, but it's an isekai. That's just a genre
Okay. So
of
that's gotten
anime.
so I watched it when it was, what is it, like Sword Art Online? Is that like
Sword Art was like probably like the first big one, yeah.
yeah. So I remember watching that and liking the first season. Of course, that goes off the rails after season one.
Yeah.
So I remember liking that a lot. So basically, it's just become so popular that they've made like infinite copies of that now.
A million of them.
God, that is disappointing.
Millions of them. Yeah, it is a massive
Okay.
trope now. Yeah.
So are there ones that are, I mean, it's not hard to top Sword Art because only, in my opinion, only the first season was good anyway. Have they made good, are there other ones in that genre that you would recommend?
Not off the top of my head. No,
Really?
not really.
That's disappointing. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Dang, an entire genre. You said millions of these shows.
Granted, I haven't seen millions of of them.
Yeah.
Some people like I don't know. Yeah, I can't really give you a good one.
Disappointing. It is a fun premise. I love the premise.
It's a great premise. Yeah, it is a fun premise.
They did.
But
Do
you
you
have to
remember
really
that?
like enjoy it.
I think around a similar time of Sword Art Online, I want to say Netflix did a show that was live action, but then they would go into a virtual world, and then that would be like kind of an animated world where they would hang out. Um,
Sounds like Ready Player One.
yeah, kind of like that. But the show just got really dark, where the characters were kind of like depressed and got did all this like horrible stuff, and I stopped watching it because I was like, oh, I thought
Oh
this was going
no.
to be like a fun adventure, and
A
it's like,
fun show.
and it's
Yeah,
like dealing
there's
with
all
like,
everyone's dying. Yeah.
yeah, I was like dealing with like abuse and suicide and stuff, and I was just like, oh, okay. I thought we were gonna fight dragons and like level up and shit. Um,
Yeah.
so it wasn't that, but I'd be down for a good one of those. Like, if you're saying that isekai is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, if they haven't put out another good one, it's like, all right, man.
I mean, like it depends. Like there's like they're made because they're popular, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
I only watch anime when they're like insanely well like recommended. You know, I'm not.
That's
There's
fair.
too
Well,
much garbage out there.
there's none that I would probably recommend that for that genre off the top of
Oh,
my head at least.
bummer, bummer.
Yeah.
That's what my I think I say that a lot because my daughter who's 5 is always just like, oh, bummer, man.
Oh,
Like
bummer, man.
she
Yeah.
says that all the
She
time.
learns from Papa.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you sound like a bro from like you sound like a surfer bro or something. Bummer, dude. Uh, so Matt, Mr. Game of the Year announcer over here. What do you think? Death Stranding versus Expedition 33.
Expedition 33.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I thought
Still
that was
Expedition
gonna.
33 for me.
Yeah.
I've been really loving Death Stranding, but it's more of the same from the first game, and I mean it's better in like almost every way.
Yeah.
Um, like I can't deny that, but it is still just Death Stranding, so
Yeah.
it's not wowing me in the same way that Death Stranding 1, because like
Sure.
you're completely introduced to Death Stranding, you're like what the hell is going on, and now it's like oh yeah, I'm more comfortable with this world, you
It's
know?
a sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sequel. It's a sequel. It's a damn well-made sequel. It's really I don't want to lessen it, but I absolutely adored Expedition 33. So
Cool.
from a personal standpoint, they're close, but it's yeah, that would be still my preference.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm actually, it's fine. I heard my kids walk in the front door, but I'm supposed to set up Beyond All Reason so that I can play it with Jeff tonight, and
Oh,
we're gonna play some BAR together. I'm actually kind of pumped for it, man.
nice.
The RTS, that's mostly what I've been playing. That
You
and
got
like
the
a few other
bug.
games. I do, man. I think it's like a resurgence of the RTS, which is like I've just been waiting for it, Matt. I've been waiting for this for like a decade. It was the biggest thing in gaming for like for like a full decade.
Long time. Yeah.
Was RTS and like nothing else, or nothing could quite come close to it. And now it's fallen, but this is like the bit closest thing I've seen to it coming back, and it
Well,
took
coming back for you.
well, true, but they're hitting
I
pretty
don't.
good numbers from what I hear. They're not on
Mhm.
Steam, which is the crazy thing.
Yeah.
They're apparently working on a Steam release, but I have no idea how far out they are. It's a 100% community driven project. And the game is totally free. Like when you download it, you can donate, and that's as an option. And
Is that how they're funding it, with donations?
I don't even know if that's. I think it's still mostly volunteer, so I don't think they're
Mm-hmm.
funding per se. And I think probably whatever they get through the donations goes out to the different members, to help
Yeah.
pay the costs, but or maybe it pays the server costs or something. But yeah, it's a resurgence. They keep hitting really big player milestones, and I'll be curious if it drops on Steam, if that can really blow things up even further. But
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of people won't go out of their way to download a game on another website.
Yeah, well, it's so weird, especially even if it's free. And you're just like, just download it right there, and now you have it. Yeah,
Yep.
but there's like full servers when I go down the server queue, looking for games and stuff. So
Do they have matchmaking?
yeah, oh yeah, it's like a full
There you
blown
go.
game, man. It's wild.
It's a game. It's a
Yeah.
game.
I know, and they're building their third faction. What's cool about it being an alpha is that, or whatever it is, I don't know what it is. It's just a game that's in progress, and you just get updates as they come. And you can turn on their third faction, which is not finished yet. And they don't have full naval units and stuff yet. But every time they update it and patch it, they'll add in more units. So you can just keep playing with it. And then people will be like, oh, it's super imbalanced. And they'll just keep working on it, and then eventually that faction will be done, and then it'll just be on by default, as opposed to like a server setting when you're making a match. Like, do you guys want the experimental units or not? It's just cool to. They've just come up with kind of an elegant solution versus having a whole bunch of content behind closed doors until it's ready and then pushing it out. They're like, we'll just have it as a checkbox option when you're making a game. Do you want to play with our work in progress content or not? So it's
funny how it works for some games and not others, though.
Indies and free to plays and work in progress projects get a huge amount of leeway on that front. AAA devs are just like, no, you expect a complete finished product for anything that
practically,
that hits the ground.
Yep.
Any other game? I see you got a few games is Project Hail Mary? Is that the book or the movie?
No, that's the book. Yeah, we talked about that last time though. I'm still working my way through it. Still fantastic. I absolutely love it. Highly recommend for any sci-fi fans. Played Midnight Walkers, which is basically a Dark and Darker clone, but set with zombies, which is kind of neat. And they've got, instead of like a circle that closes in, it's a floor system. So you can like go upstairs and downstairs with elevators or literally staircases that are scattered around, because the floor will just get gassed.
Oh, that's a fun
It's
concept.
kind of unique. Yeah. So you basically go like up and down like a skyscraper. I'm like, that's kind of a neat way of moving people around, right?
Yeah.
So I really like that. Combat, though, it's one of my issues with Dark and Darker too, where it's just like you just feel like you're just swinging your weapon around and there's no real like skill expression. So you get in combat with like another player and it's just like bonk 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 bonk. Oh, I had more HP or I had more DPS and I win or lose because of that.
Super low skill curve, basically.
Yeah, I mean there's skill, like you can do some like jumping and like crouching to dodge every once in a while, but it just feels really kind of So I wasn't super into it as much as I would have liked. Crosswind is something that was more up my alley, which is a survival game. I play a lot of survival games, I realize. But it's pirates. And it's kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean meets Valheim, where a lot of the similarities from Valheim, where you have to kind of like manage the wind and like where it's blowing you and everything.
Sounds like a really cool concept.
I have some issues with it. The progression, the directing you as to like where you need to go next, I feel like could really be streamlined a lot better, because they're like, just explore a bunch of islands, and you go explore those islands. They're like, this island is exactly like the other island, but you maybe find like one or two different things, right? So I was like, I want to get to the next phase. Like I needed to get to iron, and I just couldn't figure out how to get to iron. I discovered a big island way out in the distance, and I physically could not do damage to the units on that island.
Oh, that's
like, well, clearly I'm so I'm like, clearly I'm too far. This island is like a new biome, and I need to go find another one before that. But you basically start off as a shipwrecked pirate, and you start with nothing. You have a little dinghy ship that you can use and stuff to get from island to island. But you slowly build up like a little home base. And then apparently, like by the end, you're gonna have like big ships with cannons. And
I'm watching the trailer.
I think there'll be PvP. Dope. It looks like it's an alpha, so I can excuse it for its issues. But
it's
the
like
idea
Sea
of what they're going
for like big kids, you know. It's like
it does kind of have a bit of a Sea of Thieves vibe to it. Yeah. But it's definitely more survival. Absolutely survival.
But that could be really fun, where you're just like, it shows them fishing and stuff to get food off of their boat. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I think the pirate genre has a lot left to give gamers, and I think any good pirate games out there could do well. I'm going to keep my eye on it. I like what I played, but definitely could use some improvements, especially combat. There's some issues I have with the combat feeling a little clunky and chunky. Yeah. That's like one of my biggest gripes with the overall RPG mechanics. When you get to when you get to an area that maybe you weren't supposed to be, or you accidentally wandered off path, and then you're just gated by literally the game saying, nah, you're not going to do any damage to this guy.
Yeah. Not like 1 or 2 damage, but literally immune. I'm like, oh.
It's like, I get it. It's an easy solution to a more complicated problem of how do you stop players from progressing past this. And
Right.
obviously, the nicer solution is like, I don't know, make the bad guys like really challenging where you'd have to like get some better weapons where so you can just hit them or something. But, or give, I don't know. There's different ways to do it, but it always throws me off when I'm just like, oh, okay, we're just doing the invisible gaming wall right now to stop
Right.
me from progressing to the next
Right.
area. Yeah. Oh, I want to correct my comment from earlier. I said low skill curve. What I meant to say was low skill ceiling.
Ah.
I used to say skill curve and skill ceiling a lot when making like weapon reviews or something like that for Battlefield. And
Ah, yes, the M16A3 with its up into the right recoil pattern.
I had somebody like write me a fairly long explanation of the difference in skill curve and skill ceiling and was like, you're not using them correctly. And they were correct. And now I'm like, well, dang, I
Yeah.
got to catch myself on that. I
Yeah.
said skill curve.
Hey, you learned something, you
I
know?
know. I know.
It's better to learn than just be like, "No, I'm set in my ways
Oh,
because I can
totally.
never be wrong."
Yeah, yeah. Well, don't you find that's like a big component of just general intelligence is people who like look at every situation as like a learning opportunity. I noticed
Yes.
this with like athletes and or like esports gamers or whatever is
Uh-huh.
like they're not so like I don't know, defensive to take criticism and just be like, well, you're stupid or like you need to be better,
Yeah. Yeah.
and instead they take that and they go, okay, what's the useful information here? Okay, yeah, they are right. I wasn't as good as that. How can I improve on that? And you're like,
Right.
I find like athletes have a lot of that. It's sort of like a specific type of intelligence, but it's definitely, you know,
Well, it's putting your ego aside because you
yeah,
realize that you're not God and that you make mistakes and you're not all knowledgeable and you can learn from others. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and also when people say like, "Oh, that person's just got a lot of natural skill," and like you're like, "Yeah, that's a thing," but also I think it's like the brain behind the skill. It's like there's a huge component to it that's just like how you learn and how you improve and how you decide not to get stuck in your ways of like this is how I like to play and I'm not going to like reanalyze this at any point or try and like reinvent my techniques. And so I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of mental like yeah, I don't know. It's just like when they say natural raw talent, I'm like yeah, I think a lot of that's mental, like a huge
It could be.
component.
So I've seen some I grew up with some people that were unbelievably talented where you tell them like to do this and then they just do it and you're like you've got to be kidding me. Like it's pretty incredible to watch someone do that.
That's true. Hey, you were pretty good at your sport, Matt. So,
I was pretty good, yeah, but there are some people that are just bonkers.
yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Every sport I played, there's always that next person up where you're just like, "Dang, I'm not that good.
Yeah.
Will I ever be that good? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe."
Some things just because, they're just easier for others. But not to lessen, because the people that I'm talking about also put an unbelievable amount of time into their craft. And it's probably because they put that time in that they can easily adapt and, adjust what they're doing to what you just recommended. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. Shall we wrap the podcast up there? You feeling good about things?
sure.
Anything else you wanted to chat about?
No, that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for sticking with us through Robotimio a little bit. It's actually, I think it's my fault. The internet's been a little spotty lately, but we made it through. Wasn't too bad. And thank you to the people who dropped by for the live stream as well. If you guys want to check out our live streams, you can look at our Patreons linked below and sign up for those. We generally record the live streams on Mondays and then have a little post podcast chat about things going on in life. And it's a good time. But otherwise, we just appreciate your viewership and hanging out and leaving comments.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt is going to leave you with some very helpful advice.
I mean, the helpful advice I think you just articulated very well is leave your ego at the door and take suggestions with an open mind so that you can learn from other people and don't let it weigh you down.
Yeah, I think that's Honestly, I think that is like some of the most important advice just to get through life, It's just
Yeah.
like knowing when to take good advice. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because then if you got somebody like mean in your group who's just belittling you and then you take
Oh, well,
that,
yeah.
yeah, right? So
Yeah,
as long
yeah,
as you
yeah.
have people around you and you're able to
That
decipher
genuinely
their
want to help you.
information. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or even if
yeah.
somebody's like saying something in sort of a rude way, but they actually have a point. If you're able to see through that, right? Think about how much criticism you've probably received over the year that could
Oh
absolutely
God.
be received as rude, but you're like, dang it, that guy's got a point, or that, that person's got a point. They didn't say it nicely, but it has probably had an effect on you, right? Where you're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't like them for saying that way, but they're right. They're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely think of quite a few moments that have made me reflect on my actions, and it's like, yeah, you got to take that ego out, learn, progress, develop,
Yep.
evolve into the second stage of Pokemon. All right. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. We'll leave you there. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Take care.